Most people spend their entire lives working for money without realizing money was never the problem. Fear is fear of not having enough, fear of losing security, fear of starting over. This fear keeps people trapped in jobs they hate, chasing paychecks that never bring freedom. But one simple lesson, learned at the age of 9, breaks that cycle forever. This is the story that explains why the rich don't work for money. Most people believe money is the solution to their problems. If they had more of it, life would be easier, bills would disappear, stress would fade, freedom would finally arrive. But money has never been the real problem. Fear is. Fear is what wakes people up every morning and pushes them into traffic. Fear is what keeps them silent in meetings they hate. Fear is what convinces them that a paycheck is safety, even when it feels like a cage. This chapter is about the moment that illusion breaks. When he was just 9 years old, a boy learned a lesson most adults never do. It began with rejection. 2 boys were excluded from a classmate's invitation to a beach house. Not because they were rude, not because they were lazy, but because they were poor. They didn't fit in, they didn't belong. That single moment planted a question more powerful than any school lesson. How do you become rich? One father answered the way most parents do. Study hard, get good grades, find a stable job. It was logical advice, safe advice, familiar advice. But even as a child, something about it felt incomplete. That father worked hard, he was educated, he earned a respectable income, and yet money was always tight. Bills created tension. Security always felt temporary. The boy sensed the contradiction. If working hard and earning well was the answer, why did it never seem to be enough? So he turned to another father figure, a man who owned businesses, a man who hadn't finished much school, a man who wasn't rich yet but thought differently. This man didn't give answers, he gave experiences. Instead of sitting the boys down in a classroom, he made them an offer. "I'll teach you how to make money," he said, "but not by talking. You'll learn by working." The pay was humiliating, almost insulting, a few cents an hour, just enough to feel unfair, and that was the point. The work itself was simple. Dusty shelves, repetitive motions, hours that felt longer than they were. No praise, no explanation, no visible lesson. Week after week, frustration built. The boys felt used, disrespected, trapped. Their emotions boiled over until one of them finally exploded. "This isn't fair. You said you'd teach us. You're greedy." Those words came from anger, from disappointment, from fear, and that's when the real lesson began. "Life doesn't teach you by talking," the man said calmly. "Life pushes you around. Most people don't recognize this. When life pushes, they react emotionally. They complain about their boss, their job, their salary, their situation. They don't ask what the pressure is trying to show them. They just try to escape it." The man explained that most people work for money because they're afraid of not having enough, afraid of falling behind, afraid of losing comfort. So they accept the push, they obey it, they trade time for security, and once they receive money, a second emotion takes over, desire. Suddenly, the money is gone, spent on things that promise happiness but only deliver temporary relief. The cycle restarts, more work, more fear, more desire. This loop is what he called the rat race, not because people are stupid, but because they're emotional. Then came the test. The boys were offered a raise, a significant one. More money than they could imagine at that age. With each increase, temptation grew. The images in their minds became clearer. New toys, new status, approval from others. Their emotions screamed yes, but something had changed. They had already experienced what money did to their thinking. They could feel the pull, the weakness, the part of themselves that could be bought, and they resisted. That moment mattered more than the money ever could, because for the first time, they weren't reacting. They were choosing. Most people have a price, the man said, and once you find it, you control them. Fear and desire are powerful masters. Together, they keep people working harder while thinking less. They convince people that the solution to financial problems is always more money, but more money doesn't solve the problem, it hides it. The real solution is learning to think when emotions are loud. That's why the man took away their pay entirely. No paycheck, no safety, no obvious reward, only a question. If you're not working for money, he asked, what are you working for? The boys didn't understand at first. Then they noticed something, opportunity. Without the pressure of earning hourly wages, their minds became active, creative, observant. They saw a gap no one else noticed. Children loved comic books, but buying them was expensive. Reading them was limited, so they built a system, a small library, minimal cost, recurring income, someone else to manage it. Money came in even when they weren't there. For the first time, they experienced what it meant to make money work for them. Not through effort, but through structure. That was the lesson. The rich don't work for money. They work to learn. They work to build systems. They work to escape emotional decision-making. Most people spend their lives increasing income without increasing intelligence. They chase raises instead of understanding cash flow. They negotiate salaries instead of building assets. They mistake comfort for progress. And because of that, fear never leaves. This chapter isn't telling you to quit your job. It's telling you to stop believing your job is the solution. Working for money trains you to obey fear. Learning how money works trains you to control it. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's why this lesson comes first. Because until you stop working for money, money will always work you. Most people believe wealth begins with income, a higher salary, a bigger promotion, more digits on a paycheck, but income has never been the foundation of wealth. Understanding is. Financial literacy is the invisible line that separates people who look rich from people who actually are rich. It determines whether money becomes a tool or a trap, and the tragedy is this. Millions of intelligent, hardworking people never cross that line. Financial literacy isn't about complicated formulas or advanced mathematics. It's not about predicting markets or memorizing stock symbols. At its core, it's about seeing money clearly. Most people never do. They earn money, they spend money, they save a little, they worry a lot, yet they don't understand what money is doing once it enters their life. They don't track it. They don't direct it. They don't command it. They react to it. And reaction is expensive. The first idea that changes everything is deceptively simple. There are only two types of things in your financial life. Things that put money into your pocket and things that take money out. That's it. Everything else is noise. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out. Simple enough to understand, difficult enough to ignore. Because most people were taught the opposite. They were taught that a bigger house means success, that a newer car means progress, that lifestyle upgrades are rewards for hard work, but no one asked the most important question. Does it pay you or do you pay it? This is where financial blindness begins. A person can earn more money and still become poorer. More income often leads to more expenses, more responsibility, more stress, and eventually more dependence. Because without financial literacy, more money doesn't bring freedom. It magnifies habits. If you don't understand money, it doesn't matter how much you earn. It will leave your hands as quickly as it arrives. Sometimes faster. Financial literacy starts with learning how money flows, not how it looks, not how it feels, but how it moves. Money flows through two simple statements. One measures motion, the other measures position. Most people only pay attention to motion. Income in, expenses out. They celebrate raises. They justify spending. They ignore structure. But wealth is built on position. What you own, what you owe, what pays you, what drains you. This is where most people get lost. A person may earn a high income and still have no assets. Another may earn less and quietly build cash flow. From the outside, the first looks successful. From the inside, the second is becoming free. Financial literacy teaches you to stop judging wealth by appearances. It teaches you to judge it by sustainability. If you stopped working today, how long would you survive? That question reveals everything. This leads to a definition of wealth that most people never hear. Wealth is not how much money you have. Wealth is how long you can live without working. If your assets can cover your expenses, you are wealthy, even if no one notices. If they can't, you are dependent, no matter how impressive your income looks. This is the truth financial literacy exposes, and truth is uncomfortable. One of the most controversial ideas in this lesson is the concept of ownership. Many people proudly say they own things, but financial literacy asks a harder question. Do you own it, or does it own you? If something requires constant payments, constant maintenance, constant worry, and produces no income, it is not helping you. It is consuming you. That doesn't mean you should never enjoy life. It means enjoyment should be funded by assets, not debt. Luxury without cash flow is fragile. Luxury supported by assets is quiet confidence. This is why so many people win the lottery and lose everything. The problem was never the amount of money, it was the absence of literacy. Sudden income amplifies existing behavior. Without structure, money doesn't create stability. It creates chaos, and once the money is gone, the person is left worse off than before, because now they've tasted a lifestyle they can't sustain. Financial literacy prevents this. It slows you down before success accelerates you into destruction. The educated mind understands leverage, not just financial leverage, but mental leverage. It understands that money should work harder than you do. That effort has limits, but systems scale. That's why the financially literate focus on building columns, not chasing paychecks. They accumulate income-producing assets first. Only then do they increase lifestyle. This order matters. Reverse it and you work forever. Follow it, and time starts working for you. Another truth financial literacy reveals is this: more money doesn't remove fear, it often increases it. People who don't understand money are terrified of losing it, so they cling to it, protect it, hoard it, but fear-based decisions rarely produce growth. The financially literate see money as neutral, not good, not evil, just a tool. They don't worship it, they don't fear it, they study it. And study creates confidence. Financial literacy also teaches patience. Most people want fast results. They chase trends. They jump into investments they don't understand. They follow advice from people who profit from their confusion. The financially literate move slower, but see further. They understand that boring assets often outperform exciting ones. They understand that consistency beats intensity. And they understand that wealth is built quietly, long before it is visible. This lesson is not about deprivation, it's about sequence. Build assets first, let them pay for liabilities later, not the other way around. This one principle changes the trajectory of a life. It replaces stress with strategy. It replaces hope with clarity. Financial literacy is not taught in schools because it challenges systems that rely on obedience. An employee who understands money asks different questions. A consumer who understands cash flow buys differently. A citizen who understands structure thinks independently, and independence is disruptive. So most people are trained to be skilled workers, not strategic thinkers. They learn how to earn money, not how to keep it. Not how to grow it, not how to protect it. This chapter isn't asking you to become an accountant. It's asking you to become conscious, to observe your financial life without emotion, to stop assuming that effort equals progress, to stop confusing income with intelligence. Once you see money clearly, decisions become easier. Not because life becomes simpler, but because confusion disappears. Financial literacy doesn't promise riches, it promises awareness, and awareness is the gateway to freedom. Without it, money controls you. With it, you decide where money goes and how long you need to work. That's why this lesson comes second, because once you stop working for money, you must learn how money works. Otherwise, you'll fall right back into the same trap with a different paycheck. Most people believe they have a business. They don't. They have a job. This confusion quietly shapes an entire lifetime. A man once stood in front of a room full of students and asked a simple question. "What business am I in?" The students laughed. The answer seemed obvious. "You sell hamburgers." He smiled and shook his head. "I'm in real estate." That man was Ray Kroc and the company was McDonald's. What the students saw were restaurants. What he saw were locations, corners, intersections, foot traffic, land. The hamburgers were the product. The real estate was the business. That distinction is the heart of this chapter. Most people spend their lives mastering a profession and assume that profession is their business. I'm a banker. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm a manager. Then comes the question that exposes the truth. Do you own it? Silence usually follows. If you don't own it, it's not your business. It's your job. There is nothing wrong with having a job. The problem begins when people confuse employment with ownership. A job pays income. A business builds assets. One supports today, the other secures tomorrow. Most people focus all their energy on climbing someone else's ladder, improving someone else's system, protecting someone else's future. They become very good at minding other people's business, and they call it stability. Minding your own business does not mean quitting your job tomorrow. It means understanding the difference between your income column and your asset column. Your job belongs to the income column. Your business lives in the asset column. This is where the financially literate draw the line. They keep their jobs, but they don't stop there. They quietly build ownership. The tragedy is that many people work their entire lives without ever owning anything that pays them. They earn, they spend, they repeat. At the end, they have memories, but no systems. The rich think differently. They ask a question most people never do. What am I building that will pay me when I stop working? This is why so many high-income earners still feel trapped. They make good money, they live well, they look successful. But if the job disappears, everything disappears with it. No income, no leverage, no time. That's not security, that's dependence. Minding your own business means shifting your focus away from income and toward accumulation. Not accumulation of things, but accumulation of cash flow. Assets that generate income without your daily presence. Assets that work quietly while you sleep. Assets that do not demand your time in exchange for survival. This doesn't require brilliance. It requires discipline. It requires patience. And it requires resisting the temptation to spend first and build later. Most people reverse the order. They increase lifestyle as income increases. They reward themselves before they've secured themselves. And so the cycle never breaks. The wealthy follow a different sequence. They build assets first. They let assets pay for luxuries later. They understand that enjoyment without structure is fragile, but enjoyment funded by systems is sustainable. That's the difference between looking rich and being free. When people hear the phrase, "start a business," they imagine stress, risk, and endless hours. That's not what this lesson means. Your business doesn't need to be a company with employees. It can be ownership. Ownership of things that produce income, ownership of ideas that scale, ownership of systems that don't depend on you being present. If you must be there for money to be made, it's not a business. It's another job. This is why the asset column matters. Assets are things that can exist independently of your time. They can be managed. They can be delegated. They can be automated. Your role is not to work in them, but to own them. That mental shift is uncomfortable at first because it removes the illusion of safety, but it replaces it with something stronger, control. Minding your own business also requires restraint. Not every opportunity is worth chasing. Not every investment aligns with who you are. Some people love real estate, others hate it. Some understand markets, others understand systems. The mistake is copying what others do without understanding why they do it. Financial literacy is personal. Your asset column should reflect your strengths, not your insecurities. This chapter also exposes a hard truth. Most people are too busy to build their own business because they are exhausted from building someone else's. They come home tired, mentally drained, emotionally empty, so they escape. Entertainment replaces strategy. Consumption replaces creation, and slowly years pass. This is not failure, it's misdirection. Minding your own business means reclaiming attention. It means asking better questions. Not how much do I make, but what do I own? Not can I afford it, but will this pay me back? Not what do others think, but does this strengthen my position? These questions reshape behavior, and behavior compounds. The wealthy understand that governments, banks, and corporations all mind their own business first. They protect assets, they structure ownership, they optimize systems. Individuals are rarely taught to do the same. They're taught to comply. To earn, to consume. Minding your own business is an act of independence. This chapter is not anti-work. It's anti-confusion. It's about clarity. You can be an excellent employee and still build your own business. In fact, that's often the smartest path. Income funds assets. Assets buy time. Time buys freedom. The biggest mistake people make is waiting. Waiting for more money. Waiting for confidence. Waiting for permission. But the asset column doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. Small, intelligent decisions made repeatedly outperform dramatic moves made rarely. That's how quiet wealth is built. Minding your own business is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek validation. It happens quietly behind the scenes while others are distracted by appearances. And one day it becomes obvious, not because you told anyone, but because you don't have to explain your choices anymore. This is why this lesson comes third. First, you stop working for money. Second, you learn how money works. Third, you apply that knowledge to your life, not your employer's. Not the government's, not the bank's, yours. Because at the end of the day, the question is simple. When you stop working, will your money stop too? If the answer is yes, you don't own a business yet. You just have a job. And this chapter exists to make sure that changes. Most people believe taxes are simple. Earn money, pay your share, move on. But taxes were never simple. They are strategic. And the moment you understand how they truly work, you realize something unsettling. Taxes are not a punishment for success. They are a reward for ignorance. To understand this chapter, you must first let go of a comforting myth. The myth is that the tax system is designed to be fair. It isn't. It is designed to be understood. And those who understand it play a very different game from those who don't. Long ago, income tax was not permanent. It was temporary, occasional, introduced only in times of crisis. Wars needed funding. Governments asked citizens to contribute, and the promise was simple. This will only apply to the rich. The masses agreed. After all, why shouldn't the wealthy pay more? But once a tax system is created, it rarely stays contained. What begins at the top slowly moves downward. The wealthy adapt. The middle class absorbs the weight, and the poor feel it the hardest. This is the paradox of taxation. The more educated and productive you become as an individual, the more you are punished, unless you understand structure. Most people don't. They see taxes as unavoidable, a fixed cost of life. They work harder to compensate, and in doing so, they walk directly into the trap. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Employees pay taxes first. Then they try to live on what's left. Owners do the opposite. They structure first. They protect assets. They pay taxes last, not by breaking the law, but by understanding it. This is where corporations enter the story. A corporation is not a building. It's not a factory. It's not a group of people. It's a legal entity, a set of rules written on paper, and those rules change everything. Most people think corporations are for big businesses. They aren't. They are tools that allow money to move differently. When money moves differently, it is taxed differently. That is the advantage. An employee earns money. The government takes its share immediately. A corporation earns money. Expenses are paid first. Only what remains is taxed. That single difference is massive. It determines whether you work for the tax system or whether the tax system works around you. This is why so many high-income professionals feel trapped. They earn more, they pay more, they save less. They assume the solution is to earn even more, but the system is designed to scale against them. More income without structure simply feeds the machine. The wealthy learned this lesson long ago. They don't fight taxes emotionally. They don't complain endlessly. They study. They ask better questions. How can this be structured differently? How can this income be redirected? How can this expense become deductible? These questions change outcomes. Corporations allow the wealthy to do what individuals cannot. They can expense learning, expense travel, expense systems, expense growth, not as loopholes, but as incentives. Governments want economic activity. Corporations create it, so the system rewards those who use them. This is where the story of two fathers becomes clear. One father believed in fairness. He believed the government should help people. He believed paying taxes was a moral duty, and because of that belief, he accepted the system as it was presented to him. The other father believed in understanding. He believed rules existed whether people liked them or not. And if rules existed, they should be learned, not ignored. The first father worked harder as taxes increased. The second restructured as taxes increased. One grew frustrated, the other grew more efficient. This difference had nothing to do with morality. It had everything to do with literacy. This chapter is not an argument against taxes. It's an argument against ignorance, because ignorance is expensive, and the cost compounds over decades. Most people never learn this because they are taught to focus on income, not structure. They negotiate salaries, they chase promotions, they celebrate raises. Meanwhile, the invisible drain grows larger: taxes, inflation, debt. Each quietly erodes purchasing power. Each keeps people running faster just to stay in place. Corporations offer leverage, not just financial leverage, but legal leverage. They separate personal risk from business risk. They create boundaries. They turn income into strategy. This is why the wealthy are rarely afraid of taxes. They are prepared for them. Another misunderstood truth is this: attempts to punish the rich through taxation rarely succeed. Not because the rich are evil, but because they adapt. They move money. They change structures. They adjust behavior. The burden doesn't disappear. It shifts. And it almost always lands on those least equipped to understand why. This is why financial education matters, not to avoid responsibility, but to avoid helplessness. A person who understands taxation is no longer emotional about it. They see it as part of the game, and games can be learned. Corporations are not about greed. They are about foresight. They are about thinking long-term. They are about building systems that survive change. While individuals react year to year, corporations plan decades ahead. That mindset alone creates distance. This chapter also reveals why traditional education falls short. Schools teach compliance. Corporations reward structure. Schools teach effort. Corporations reward efficiency. Without exposure to both worlds, most people are unprepared. They enter adulthood fluent in labor, but illiterate in leverage. Understanding taxes changes how you see money. You stop asking, "How much did I make?" and start asking, "How much did I keep and why?" You stop blaming systems and start mastering them. This doesn't happen overnight. It begins with awareness, with curiosity, with the humility to admit that working harder is not always the answer. Sometimes, thinking differently is. This chapter exists because money without structure is vulnerable, because income without strategy is temporary, because effort without literacy leads to exhaustion. The rich don't fear taxes, they respect them. They know that within every rule is an advantage for those willing to learn, and that is the real power of corporations, not money. Not influence, but understanding. That's why this lesson comes forth. First, you stop working for money. Second, you learn how money flows. Third, you build your own assets. Fourth, you protect them, because wealth without protection is fragile. And protection begins with knowledge. Most people believe money is something you earn. The rich know it is something you create. That difference is subtle, and it changes everything. From the outside, wealth looks like accumulation, more property, more investments, more zeros on a statement. But from the inside, wealth begins much earlier, long before money appears. It begins in the mind. Most people wait for opportunity. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for permission. They wait for certainty. The rich don't wait. They train themselves to see. Every economic cycle tells the same story. When markets rise, everyone feels confident. When markets fall, fear spreads. But while most people are distracted by emotion, a small group is quietly active, not because they know the future, but because they understand patterns. Money is not created evenly. It never has been. It flows toward those who recognize imbalance, gaps between perception and reality. The rich call these gaps opportunity. Everyone else calls them risk. The average person sees a downturn and freezes. They protect what they have. They retreat into safety. They wait for stability to return. The financially intelligent see the same downturn and line in, not recklessly, strategically, because they understand that value doesn't disappear, it relocates. This chapter is not about luck, it's about preparation. Opportunity favors those who are ready before it arrives. To invent money, you must first understand this truth. Markets don't reward effort, they reward insight. Two people can look at the same situation and see entirely different things. One sees danger, the other sees leverage. The difference is not courage, it's literacy. The financially intelligent don't ask, how much does this cost? They ask, how is this structured? They don't focus on price. They focus on terms, because price is visible, terms are invisible, and invisibility is where advantage lives. Most people work for money by selling time. Time is limited. Once it's gone forever. The rich look for ways to detach income from time. They invent money by rearranging pieces, agreements, timing, structure, and leverage, not by working harder. This is why intelligence matters more than capital. Money follows ideas. Ideas scale, effort doesn't. Financial intelligence is the ability to see what others miss, to notice inefficiencies, to connect information, to act while others hesitate. It is not taught, it is developed. Most people fear mistakes. The rich expect them, not because they enjoy losing, but because loss is tuition. Every mistake sharpens perception. Every failure reveals structure. The financially intelligent don't avoid mistakes. They avoid repeating them. This chapter also explains why education alone is not enough. Traditional education teaches answers. Financial intelligence teaches questions. The right question at the right time can be worth millions. When economies shift, rules change. Old skills lose value. New advantages emerge. Those who cling to certainty suffer. Those who adapt invent money. Information is now the most powerful asset on earth. It moves instantly. It multiplies rapidly, and it rewards speed of understanding. Those who can filter noise from signal gain an edge. Those who can't drown in confusion. This is why the rich are calm during chaos. They know chaos exposes opportunity. Assets are mispriced. Fear creates urgency. Emotion clouds judgment. The financially intelligent step in quietly. They don't announce moves, they execute. Money is invented when you can see both sides of a transaction. Not just what is happening, but why. Who is forced to sell? Who is emotional? Who needs speed? These questions reveal leverage. Most people are trained to think linearly. Work, get paid, right arrow, spend, right arrow, repeat. The rich think in systems. They design flows. They align incentives. They create structures where money moves toward them naturally. This is invention. Invention does not require genius. It requires curiosity. Curiosity keeps the mind open. Fear closes it. Many people are intelligent but emotionally reactive. They panic when others panic. They hesitate when others hesitate. They follow crowds, and crowds rarely invent anything. The rich develop emotional discipline. They delay gratification. They resist hype. They question consensus. They understand that mass agreement often signals late entry. This chapter is not suggesting recklessness. It is suggesting awareness. Calculated risk. Risk informed by understanding, not hope. When financial intelligence grows, opportunity multiplies, not because the world changes, but because perception does. What once looked invisible becomes obvious. And once seen, it can't be unseen. This is why some people seem lucky. They aren't. They're prepared. Luck is what preparation looks like from the outside. Inventing money also requires speed, not speed of action, but speed of decision. When opportunity appears, hesitation is expensive. The financially intelligent decide quickly because they've already done the thinking. They don't scramble for confidence. They rely on structure. This chapter reveals a hard truth. The world does not reward fairness. It rewards value. And value is created by those who solve problems others avoid. Money flows toward problem solvers, toward those who see friction as opportunity, toward those who understand systems better than participants inside them. This is why downturns create more millionaires than booms, because pressure reveals inefficiency, and inefficiency is where invention lives. The rich don't wait for permission to think differently. They assume responsibility. They accept uncertainty. They trust their ability to adapt. This chapter comes fifth for a reason. First, you stop working for money. Second, you learn how money flows. Third, you build assets. Fourth, you protect them. Fifth, you learn how to create them. Because once you understand how money is invented, you stop chasing it. And when you stop chasing money, money starts responding to you. This is not magic. It is mastery, and mastery begins in the mind. Most people choose their work based on one question. How much does it pay? The rich ask a different one. What will it teach me? That difference decides who stays dependent and who eventually becomes free. From an early age, people are trained to think in short timelines. Monthly salary, annual raise, next promotion. They measure progress in money earned, not skills acquired. And slowly, without realizing it, they build a life that depends entirely on one thing: a paycheck. The problem isn't working for money. The problem is only working for money. When income becomes the sole objective, learning stops. Growth narrows and opportunity shrinks. Many people are highly talented. They write well. They design well. They analyze well. Yet they struggle financially, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack range. They are one skill away from freedom, and they never acquire it. This chapter challenges a dangerous belief that specialization alone guarantees success. Specialization creates efficiency, but it also creates fragility. When the world changes, specialists suffer first. Generalists adapt. The rich understand this early. They don't rush to become experts in one narrow field. They deliberately move sideways. They learn how different parts of a system connect, because money does not live in isolation. It lives at intersections. One person may be the best writer in the room. Another may be average, but understands sales. The second will almost always earn more, not because writing lacks value, but because value must be communicated to be rewarded. This is why so many brilliant people remain underpaid. They rely on talent alone. They avoid uncomfortable skills. They assume quality will speak for itself. It rarely does. The wealthy are willing to look foolish while learning. They take roles that don't pay the most but teach the most. They accept temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term leverage. They see learning as an investment, not a sacrifice. Most people fear change. They fear starting over. They fear being a beginner again. So they stay where they are even when growth has stopped. Comfort becomes a cage. This chapter is not about quitting your job recklessly. It's about intentional movement, strategic learning, using work as a classroom, not a prison. The question is not, how much will this job pay me this year? The question is, what skills will I walk away with in 5 years? Skills compound. Salaries don't. The rich focus on 3 core abilities: managing cash flow, managing systems, managing people. These skills exist in every industry, and they transfer across every opportunity. Cash flow teaches discipline. It shows you how money actually moves, not in theory, but in practice. Those who understand cash flow stop guessing. They start controlling outcomes. Systems teach scalability. A system works whether you are present or not. Understanding systems allows you to step back without losing momentum. It turns effort into structure. People management teaches influence. Money flows through people. Those who cannot communicate, negotiate, or inspire remain limited, no matter how smart they are. Among all skills, 2 stand above the rest: sales and marketing, not manipulation, not deception, communication, the ability to explain value clearly and confidently. Many people reject sales because they associate it with dishonesty, but selling is simply transferring belief. If you cannot sell your ideas, others will sell theirs instead, and they will be rewarded for it. This is why the rich actively seek roles that sharpen uncomfortable skills. They volunteer for responsibility. They take assignments others avoid. They use every job as training for something bigger. The irony is that those who chase security end up most insecure. Their income depends on one employer, one industry, one skill. When disruption arrives, they have nowhere to pivot. Those who work to learn build optionality. They can move laterally. They can combine skills. They can reinvent themselves without starting from zero. This is power. Learning multiple skills also changes how you think. You stop seeing isolated tasks. You start seeing systems. You understand how decisions in one area affect outcomes in another. This perspective creates opportunity. The rich do not rush mastery. They value exposure. They want to understand enough to ask the right questions. They know that knowing what to learn matters more than knowing everything. This chapter also explains why some people stay busy but stagnant. They confuse activity with progress. They work long hours, but repeat the same year of experience over and over. Learning requires discomfort. Repetition alone does not. Working to learn also builds confidence that money cannot buy. When you know you can adapt, fear loses power. You are no longer trapped by circumstances. You trust your ability to figure things out. That trust is priceless. Most people wait for clarity before acting. The rich act to gain clarity. They understand that understanding comes from movement, not waiting. This lesson reframes struggle. Low pay with high learning can be valuable. High pay with no learning is dangerous. One builds future freedom, the other quietly limits it. This does not mean ignoring money forever. It means sequencing correctly. Learn first, earn later. Those who reverse this order often peak early and plateau permanently. The rich view every job as temporary. Not because they lack loyalty, but because they are loyal to growth. Once learning slows, they move, not emotionally, strategically. This chapter comes 6th for a reason. First, you stop working for money. Second, you learn how money works. Third, you build assets. Fourth, you protect them. Fifth, you invent opportunities. Sixth, you sharpen yourself, because no system is stronger than the person running it. Work is not the enemy. Unconscious work is. When you work to learn, every role becomes leverage. Every task becomes training. Every mistake becomes data. The world will continue to change faster. Industries will rise and fall. Certainty will disappear. Those who rely on one skill will panic. Those who rely on learning will adapt. This chapter exists to remind you of something simple but powerful. Your most valuable asset is not your job. It is your ability to learn. And as long as that asset grows, money will always find its way to you. Knowledge alone does not create wealth. If it did, the world would look very different. Plenty of people understand money. They read books, they watch videos, they know the rules, and yet nothing changes. Because the real barriers to wealth are not intellectual, they are emotional. This final chapter is not about strategy, it's about resistance, the invisible forces that stop people from acting even when they know what to do. 4 obstacles stand in the way of financial independence. They are quiet, they are common, and they are powerful: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits. Until these are confronted, knowledge remains theory. Fear is universal. No one likes to lose money. No one likes uncertainty. No one enjoys stepping into the unknown. But fear is not the enemy. Mismanaged fear is. Most people play not to lose. They avoid risk at all costs. They seek comfort. They protect the familiar, and in doing so, they guarantee mediocrity. Every wealthy person has lost money. Every single one. The difference is not the absence of fear, but the relationship with it. The wealthy expect losses. They plan for them. They learn from them. They don't let fear remove them from the game. Fear often disguises itself as responsibility. I have bills. I have a family. I can't afford mistakes. But these statements often hide a deeper truth. I don't trust myself yet. Financial growth requires exposure. You cannot learn to swim without getting wet. You cannot learn to invest without risking something. The goal is not recklessness. The goal is controlled discomfort. Fear becomes manageable when decisions are made small. Small investments, small experiments, small failures. Each one builds competence, and competence dissolves fear. Cynicism is fear that learned how to speak intelligently. It sounds like wisdom. It won't work. The system is rigged. People like us don't get ahead. These thoughts feel safe. They protect you from disappointment, but they also protect you from opportunity. Cynics criticize. Winners analyze. One closes doors. The other looks for keys. Cynicism often comes from listening to the wrong voices. People who have never built anything are often the loudest when it comes to warning you. They mean well. But their advice is shaped by limitation, not experience. Every major opportunity looks risky to those who don't understand it. That doesn't make them cautious. It makes them uninformed. The wealthy are selective about whose opinions they value. They listen to people who have been where they want to go, not those who talk the most confidently. Laziness is rarely about inactivity. It's about avoidance. Avoidance of discomfort, avoidance of thinking, avoidance of responsibility. Most people say, "I can't afford it." This sentence shuts the mind down. It ends the conversation. The wealthy ask a different question. How can I afford it? This question opens the mind. It forces creativity. It demands solutions. Desire is not the problem. Desire is the engine of progress. Without it, nothing improves. New inventions exist because someone wanted something better. A small amount of healthy desire pushes people forward. Too much creates obsession. Too little creates stagnation. The goal is balance. Laziness dissolves when desire becomes clear. When the reason is strong, effort follows. Bad habits wealth is not built by dramatic actions. It's built by small decisions repeated daily. Habits decide destiny. One habit separates those who struggle from those who progress. Paying yourself first. Most people pay everyone else first. The bank, the government, the bills, they promise to save what's left. There is rarely anything left. The wealthy reverse the order. They secure their future first. Then they figure out how to cover the rest. This creates pressure, productive pressure, pressure that forces growth. Bad habits feel harmless. Small expenses, delayed action, ignored planning, but over time they compound. Just like good habits do, changing habits is uncomfortable. It requires honesty. but once changed, they operate quietly in the background, creating results long after effort stops. The final shift: these four obstacles are not removed once, they are managed continuously. Fear returns, doubt whispers, comfort tempts, but the financially independent do not eliminate these forces, they master them. They act in spite of fear, they question cynicism, they redirect laziness, they design habits. This is not talent, it is discipline. This chapter matters because it is the bridge between knowing and doing. Everything before this taught you how money works. This chapter decides whether you use that knowledge. The world does not reward intention, it rewards action. Small, consistent, intelligent action. Financial freedom is not dramatic. It is gradual, it is built quietly, often unnoticed, until one day it becomes obvious. This is why most people never escape the rat race, not because they lack information, but because they never confront themselves. The final truth is this: money is a mirror. It reflects how you think, how you feel, how you act under pressure. Change those and money follows. This is the end of the story, but it is not the end of the journey. Because financial independence is not a destination, it is a practice, a way of thinking, a way of living. Those who master it don't chase money. They build systems, they build skills, they build discipline, and in time, money responds. If this story changed how you see money, the work has already begun, because awareness is the first victory, and action is the final one. If you've made it this far, you already think differently than most people, because real wealth isn't built loudly. It's built quietly through discipline, awareness, and time. Most people will close this video and return to old habits. A few will pause and apply what they've learned. Those few are the ones who escape. This channel exists for that small group. Here on CapitalLux, we don't chase trends or shortcuts. We study money, power, and quiet financial decisions that shape long-term wealth. If this way of thinking resonates with you, subscribe not for motivation but for perspective. Apply consistently, stay patient, and let time do the rest, because the richest people don't announce their moves, they simply make them.